Get 5 coffins ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to my guide for Scylla. Scylla is the classic pop-off mage in SMITE, focusing on dealing lots and lots of damage all at once to targets, and is capable of completely dismantling teams all by herself. That is, if she can get her combo going, otherwise she can be a bit of a potato. She's been seen very few times at the highest level of plays thanks to this sort of coin-flip nature, especially considering how long she's been in the game at this point. But oftentimes when she does make an appearance, another piece of SMITE history is created as a result. So she's very enticing to play, since sure, you can end up not doing anything at all, or you can single-handedly one-shot every god in the enemy team and win your team the game. So let's break down how that gets done, starting with builds. Scylla is damage incarnate, so you want to just go full damage. And on that note, that's why you see Polynomicon here. When I say Scylla is all about the one-shot combo, she really is, and at the moment at least, getting a Polynomicon basic attack in there is really the only way to get it done. But don't worry, she has ways to ensure it hits. Relics-wise, it's the same idea. You're a glass cannon, therefore you want beads and ages. Shard-wise, well, you can go one of two ways. Horn Shard is of course the great all-rounder, but Claw Shard does help her secure kills early on. Therefore, if you have a jungler who can very easily win you the early 2v2 in the mid lane, you can buy Claw Shard, so you can help them out with that early kill. But if your jungler has a more meager start to the game, Horn Shard is better for consistency. Recipe-wise, Party Punch has been seeing a surge on mid laners, since they can kill jungle monsters alongside their junglers to stack it up, and with Bountiful Bow's recent nerf, I can't think of a better recipe for her than Party Punch. Although in game modes other than Conquest, you really don't have a choice other than Bountiful Bow. Let's start talking about how Scylla achieves her one-shot combo by talking about her passive. Every time Scylla fully levels an ability, she will gain 25 power, meaning she can gain up to 100 magical power from this passive alone, for free. This combined with Scylla's crazy high damage already, surprise surprise, lets her one-shot people very easily with her combos once she gets going. Let's get to why this theoretical combo isn't a sure thing by talking about Scylla's first ability. Scylla fires a projectile which will stop on the first enemy or wall hit. When it hits an enemy, it will damage and root cripple them, meaning they can use any ability they want and basic attack while rooted, but cannot use movement abilities while rooted. This is part 1 of why Polynomicon works so well on Scylla. Throw this ability out, and all you have to do is hold down the basic attack button for a Polynomicon enhanced basic attack right afterwards. Super clean, super damaging. That is, if this does hit. If you can't tell, this is a slow, thin projectile. It's one of the hardest abilities in the game to hit, which is why you see some Scylla players, namely Smurfs, buying Blink on Scylla simply so that it can blink in nice and close and have a better chance of hitting this ability. It really is that important. Scylla has other, more hard-hitting abilities, but she really does live and die by hitting this ability. Once this highly damaging hard lockdown tool is down, Scylla becomes far less threatening, both as a backliner trying to avoid her combo and as a frontliner who's trying to dive onto Scylla. So it's not an ability you want to take lightly or just use just because. You really want to not only nail down hitting it consistently at maximum range, but also avoid throwing it out just too. That said, Scylla only has 2 damaging abilities in her core kit, so you do still have to use this ability to do things like finish off waves or clear camps in the early game, since your damage doesn't become relevant until later on into the match. Therefore, you have to really play cautious when this ability is down, but luckily you don't have to do this for the entire map, and even better is what happens when this ability reaches max rank. Once at max rank, the ability will damage and root cripple up to 2 additional enemies, but the enemies must be in very close proximity to the original target. So this makes the ability way better against things like clumped up minion waves and jungle monsters. But the effect it has on gods is second to none. But of course, once again, this is if it hits, and definitely one of the cruxes of playing Scylla is being so desperate trying to snag someone with your first ability or trying to pull off multi-man roots that you end up tunnel visioning and getting punished for it. Be aware of the impact a multi-man root can have, but just remember, if you force it, chances are you'll be dead before you even get the chance to capitalize off of it. Either way, you can still capitalize off the root almost every time with Scylla's second ability. Scylla deploys a large circle AoE which will slow enemies, and this ability is able to be used over walls. After 5 seconds or upon reactivation, the AoE will detonate, dealing heavy damage to all enemies, and will deal 20% bonus damage to any minions or jungle monsters. That part may sound unfair on paper, but remember, she only has her first ability as her other damaging ability in her core kit, which can only hit one target of course, so without this bonus, she'd be toast. So Scylla might not be great before her first item, but once she gets her first item and some levels into this ability, she can start obliterating waves before a lot of other mid laners can. Speaking of leveling this ability, once this ability hits max rank, Scylla will reduce the protections of any enemies inside of the AoE by 15%, and this counts on things like Gold Fury and Fire Giant too, so not only do you have this great secure ability that you can detonate at any time, but it's also reducing protections for everyone else's magical damage too. That opens up another combo, again with Polynomicon, so this time you can 1. 2 while they're rooted, and again just basic attack them, and now they have to eat your 1, your 2, and an enhanced Polynomicon basic attack which will deal more damage since their protections are reduced. It's simply devastating, and at full build, Scylla is the only mage in the game who could actually burst someone down like this, apart from maybe the Morrigan. And that's great, but keep in mind this ability is your damage. Sure, the combo's great, but you need to use this ability on things like waves and jungle camps in the early and mid game to farm up, so you can't really go for that insane combo whenever you fancy, because you absolutely need this ability to deal damage to things like waves and camps. Otherwise, if you just spend all day trying to poke your lane opponent with either this ability raw or your 1-2 combo, not only are you destined to get punished at some point, but it means you have absolutely no resources to clear the wave. So Scylla is a character who requires exceptional positioning and a clear head to make sure you don't get tunnel vision, but she's also a character where resource management is very important as well. Because this goes the other way too. Use this ability on a wave or a jungle camp unnecessarily, and now you don't have a combo if a fight breaks out, or you limit your amount of self-peel. This ability as well creates a sort of psychological barrier around Scylla that tells the enemy team, yeah, you can try and jump on me, but you're losing half your health when you do. When you know you've thrown out a bad Scylla tube, just walk away, because there's not a whole lot Scylla can do once that ability is down, so just detonate it to get it on cooldown and walk away. But if you do get jumped on as a result of bad usage of your second or first ability, you can use your third ability to get yourself out of danger. Scylla spawns a Sentinel, and this is able to be used over walls. It acts a lot like a ward, meaning you can see any enemies around it over walls with this ability. Be careful about trying to spot enemies though, as when Scylla reactivates this ability, she will leap underground and end up at the location of the Sentinel, and the Sentinel can be active for up to 5 seconds. However, after the 5 seconds is up, Scylla cannot reactivate the ability and will lose the vision granted by the Sentinel. Oh, and leveling this ability grants Scylla MP5, or mana per 5 seconds, the base mana regen in SMITE. For, some reason. Can you believe gods actually used to struggle with mana usage? Thank God for Sands of Time, right? So, yeah, basically you can just ignore this part of the ability. Moving on. The ability is granted a bit of extra casting range, meaning you can leap farther if you reactivate the ability immediately, and the sight it grants you is True Vision, once it's max level, meaning that it can pierce through walls unlike regular wards. This is a very odd ability on one end and an exceptional movement ability on the other, so let's talk about that weird Sentinel portion. Needless to say, since this ability is your only movement ability, you don't really want to use this as a Sentinel ward very often, but it's still there, so when should you? Well, you can use it in times in the early game to check over walls on things like XP camps and enemy buff camps to try and fish out where the enemy jungler or mid laner are. But of course, this comes with the caveat of needing to use your movement ability to get some information, so it's totally worth it when you know you can use it this way and be safe, but if the enemy jungler happens to be, right behind you instead of wherever you place the Sentinel, you're dead without a shadow of a doubt. That does bring up another way to use this ability though. When you're unsure of where the enemy jungler is, you can 3 into your tower, and then 2-1 the wave to clear it, and then 3 back into your tower to get back to safety. Mind you, you have to do this quickly, but it is a way you can keep yourself safe in case the enemy team is really applying the pressure. Additionally though, this does expose another issue with the ability. There are technically 2 windups with this ability when you want to use it, the one where you place the Sentinel, and the one when you leap towards it. So this means when you get jumped on by the enemy team, you may be able to spawn the Sentinel no problem, but maybe CC'd so hard you get hit for half your life bar before you can even leap to your Sentinel, or worse, die before you get the chance to leap. That brings up the final downside with this ability. The enemy team knows exactly where you'll be leaping towards, so it can be hard to mind game the opponent by leaping short or leaping at an angle to throw them off your trail. Remember, when they see the Sentinel you spawned as well, so they know exactly where you're going. So exercise caution against characters who have equally long leaps, teleports, or dashes, because they'll be right on your tail as soon as you leap. With that said though, there are a few movement abilities in the game that can go through walls and can match the range with this ability, so really, just be aware that this ability has weaknesses, and don't take too many unnecessary risks, banking too hard on this ability to get you out safely. Mind you, as a last line of defense, Scylla can also rely on her ultimate. Scylla becomes CC immune and gains movement speed, this movement speed being doubled if Scylla is at level 20, aka this ability is max rank. She loses access to her basic attacks and other abilities, but can still detonate her second ability while in this state. She can remain in this state for up to 6 seconds, but can cancel it at any time. Upon reactivation, Scylla will root herself in place and after a short windup, will deal damage in the small AoE in front of herself. This ability does about 1.3 trillion damage, but that's not even the best part. If Scylla kills someone with this ability, not exactly hard, she'll have that 6-second timer reset, and can attack again, meaning in theory, she can kill literally every single god on the enemy team with one usage of this ability. Crazy, right? Well, not so fast, because there's a lot of angles with this ability to keep in mind. Again, like with your 1-2 combo, you really don't want to tunnel vision on trying to get that crazy reset. A lot of the time, you want to use this ability for raw damage. Of course, the optimal combo is 1, 2, ult, reactivate and pop the 2, basically at the same time you hit your ultimate. and this will 100% kill any squishy god in the game, no questions asked. But just like with the regular 1-2 combo, you're only getting this combo every so often. You really don't want to restrict your usage of this ability to only when you think you can get a full combo out, or get a reset. Another good use of this ability is to follow up off of a teammate's CC. You may see a teammate land hard CC and think, aha, full combo time, but it's often a much better idea to just ult immediately when you see this happen, as you can stay much safer and give yourself much more options if you just ult, rather than going for your 2-1 combo. Because remember, you're not only CC immune the entire time, but you gain movement speed too, so you have a whole 6 seconds to either run away if the fight doesn't look like a good one, or walk up and get yourself in position to fire the ult. Let's talk about that firing of the ult. Yeah, it's probably one of the hardest abilities in the game to hit raw, just like her first ability. Hence why you typically want to rely on the kindness of your teammate's CC to set up for you, or the root of your own. Then you go in with the ult to deal insane damage. This, again, like her first ability, is something you really need to practice well. It's something where training mode or just playing against bots comes in handy, so you can consistently reset your ultimate cooldown and try over and over again on the AI controlled bots. It can be hard to feel prepared to use this ability when, it's your ultimate. It's not like you get to use it all the time. With that said though, as I alluded to earlier, you really don't want to hold on to this ability in the hopes you get that crazy reset. Really what timing this ability is all about is not timing the actual activation of the ability. The timing isn't entering the ultimate state at all. It's actually quite rare that you enter the ultimate state and just instantly reactivate it. You want to activate it when you know your teammate's CC is on the way, typically not when it's already hit. So again, just like with your 1-2 combo, it takes a lot of situational awareness to know when it is and is not a risk to enter the ult state and reactivate it. Because remember, Scylla does root herself in place to reactivate it, so what can happen when you time it poorly is that the enemy team just starts crowding around you, hoping you reactivate it out of frustration. Or just to get some damage out there. Then they have a moment or two to set up for some follow-up damage or CC after you exit the ability. When you realize you've made a bad decision in ulting, sometimes, sure, it's best just to throw out the damage out there to make the most out of it, but what you should really do in most situations to avoid death is just turn and walk away while in the ult. Remember, lots of movement speed and CC immunity, especially once you've reached level 20. So actually, if the enemy team gets too overzealous and commits CC and movement abilities on you while you're still in your ult, you kinda just walk away from them thanks to the movement speed, and of course, the fact that you're CC immune and can't be stopped from running away. Or sliding away, I guess? Well, that's enough of this lame running away stuff. Let's get to some combos with Scylla. 2 to slow, 1, basic attack, reactivate 2. 1, 2, basic attack, reactivate 2. 3 behind you, 1, 2, basic attack, reactivate 2, reactivate 3. 2, 1, ult, reactivate 2. You can basic attack after the 2-1, but do you really need to? 3, 1, 2, ult, reactivate 2. For ability leveling, it's actually pretty clear cut, but with a twist. You get your 2 at level 1, your 1 at level 2, and your 3 at level 3. From there you max your 2, your 1, then your 3, leveling the ultimate whenever you can. However, you need to use point skipping on Scylla to abuse her passive. This means that you do not put any skill points into any abilities at level 8, so you can max your second ability and get a level into your ultimate all in one go at level 9. And at level 13, you put a level into your first ability instead of your ultimate in order to get that insane triple root and a bit of magical power. The ability that won the first ever world championships. Okay, they probably won that game without that insane play at the end that I showed you, but what I mean is it's a great enhancement and completely transforms her first ability. And then from there, just wrap it up with your ultimate and third ability. That legendary play from MLC Stealth all the way back in Season 1, and the stretch of insane plays by Paul in Season 7 says a lot about Scylla though. You don't see Scylla a lot, especially as the years have gone on and safer, less skill-intensive gods have come to take her place. But when she does get played, and gets played at the highest level, holy god does she put in the work. Not every time though, and her failings are just as much to be kept in mind as her successes when it comes to whether or not you should be playing her. In terms of, well, most of the roles you try to kill, mid laners, ADCs, junglers, yeah, genuinely Scylla can work through most of them, if you're good enough at her. But when it comes to warriors and especially guardians, she can struggle. This wasn't as big a problem back in the day, but now you have Khepris and Gebs and Charons and Mauis and Yamojos who just press one button and it's like, oh, I guess I'm not dealing damage today. Yeah, it can suck if you pick Scylla too early on in a draft, or get unlucky in a casual game mode. Because not only are you getting pressured in the early game every time by your lane opponent, late game whoever you try to pounce on is getting one button press from their support negating all of your high risk efforts. It can be painful picking Scylla sometimes due to her frankly outdated risk and reward factor. But it's hard to deny the possibility of being that guy. The one that single-handedly fished out the route that led to the ult, that led into an ult reset, that leads into a full-on teamfight win. Yes! it's intoxicating, so in that sense, Scylla really is a love or hate character. Either you're chasing that hard carry status where you really want to carry every game and impress your teammates and work towards doing that every game as Scylla, or play other gods who are more versatile. It really is simple as that. But with that said, Scylla does help you understand how it feels to play a hard carry mid laner, of which there are few at this point in the game's life cycle. So it's still worthwhile to give her a try and live life more on the risky side. Because frankly, when it does not work out, which is unfortunately a decent amount of the time, it's weighed out by those glorious times when it does work out, and you end up carrying your entire team with absurdly good combos or an ultimate during a team fight, single-handedly gifting your team a win. So if you join SMITE and hoping to be that legendary hard carry that wins your team the match, there really is no other mage other than Scylla to get that title on. That's all I have on Scylla for now. Thanks for watching.